Warning, the following podcast is brought to you by dads who think cereal counts as dinner. Welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the All Pro Dad Podcast. I'm Ted Lowe, and I'm joined today by my buddies, Bobby Lewis,
hey, man.
BJ Foster.
Hey.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. You know, I was born in 1985, which...
Youngin'.
I know. I look so spry, don't I? Which means... No? Oh.
You're just young.
I really wasn't looking for an answer, but thank you. 1985, which means I grew up in the heyday of like the best Disney run ever. Do you remember like this run of like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, like the early 90s, great movies, like back to back to back. And so now that I'm a dad, Disney's targeting me again and like, hey, teach your kids these lifelong lessons from these movies. And so we're watching the animated movies at home and it's kind of fun. But recently, now I see them with different eyes. So we watched Beauty and the Beast, and my oldest daughter loves it because she loves to read. She's like, Belle, she's the best. You know, she's got a library, loves to read. And I was watching the movie with my kids, and there's one particular line that stood out to me very early on in the movie, like the first 5 minutes. And it's Gaston, who's the hunter, and I'm sure everyone's probably seen the movie or knows the story. But he's talking about Belle to his friend, and he said, "She's the most beautiful girl in town. That makes her the best, and don't I deserve the best?" And as a dad now, 30 years after I've watched it for the first time as a kid, that line slapped me in the face. I was like, oh, like how revolting. But as a child, I was like, whatever, like this is just one of the characters. And he's obviously not the best role model. He's a vile character and he's evil and not a good guy. But it made me think about how, as a kid, you hear messages like this and they just kind of embed in your brain. And it's just, this is part of the way we look at women. And it was a weird experience for me as a dad now to think that was so commonplace, and maybe is still a little bit commonplace. And, I don't want my girls thinking that that's how they should be spoken of. And I don't want my son to think that's how you speak about women. And so, I was thinking about that this week, and it ruined Disney for me, just so you know.
The bad character.
Yeah. Have you ever had any moments like that, though, where you just kind of realize, oh, gosh, I can't believe that I heard such disrespect towards women, or I maybe have accidentally been disrespectful towards women? Has that happened for you?
I knew we were going to do this episode, and I reached out to my 20-year-old daughter, and I was like, hey, we're doing an episode about how boys and men should respect women. And it wasn't super encouraging what she was saying, because I thought we had evolved. But she said to me, there's nothing that girls can do that they don't get made fun of. She says, if you like sports, then you're trying to be a guy. If you like makeup, then you're insecure. And she goes, and getting made fun of about everything is the opposite of respect. And I've never thought about it that way, but it was just, there was so much insight into that. I went, whoa. And I'll reference a lot of things she said today, but it was very eye-opening to talk to her.
And she's 20, you said?
She's 20.
Okay.
And she's also working at a camp this summer. So she's getting, girls from 6 years old to, going into junior year. And she's talking a lot about this through the eyes of them. And she said she's watching campers tease girls about things that seems like you'd be teasing a girl about in the 50s. Like, you like to shop all the time, and you are just all these different things, and you only like makeup. And she says they don't bother to get to know who we are because you're a female, this is what you have to be. And she said, my two favorite things to do at camp is crafts and building fires. Which she's really good at. Yeah. It's kind of frightening. She's a pyromaniac, but it is those things going, I never thought about that.
Well, you said they don't take the time to get to know you. And that's one of the problems I had with the movie. Watching it now as an adult, I was like, man, this Gaston character reduced Belle down to her looks. When if you watch the movie, like, she's got all these great qualities. She's caring, she loves to read, she's part of the community, she loves her dad. Like, there's so many great things about this person, and yet by one of the other characters in the movie reduced her down to, oh, she looks really cute, so I got to get together with her. And, women are obviously so much more than just their looks. And that's painfully obvious, but maybe not so much. We got to teach our kids about this.
Yeah, I think, you asked the question kind of, have you ever seen it or have you ever done these kinds of things? And I was just sort of thinking about myself, and I'm like, okay, I'm definitely have probably been guilty of some mansplaining, like, well, let me explain this to you kind of thing. But probably the thing I'm guilty most of all would be given a solution, when a woman is complaining about a problem that they're having, I immediately give them a solution. And I finally kind of stopped doing that when I realized how amazingly arrogant it is to think that a problem that they're having, if you think about a problem you're having, you probably think about it all the time. You probably think about it for days, hours, whatever, before you even communicate it to somebody else. And the thought that like, they would, here's a problem they've been thinking about for a long time. They present it to me, and in 5 seconds, I can come up with a solution that they haven't thought of. That's so intelligent and amazing. So that's kind of probably what I've been guilty of most, I think, in the past, maybe even near future. I don't know.
That's more truth than I'm comfortable with. And I've asked Nancy and Teddy both, and hey, do you guys ever feel like, mansplaining? Mm-hmm. And they look at me like, you're so out of it. Like, it's not like that. She goes, you will not go into a Home Depot or Lowe's without some guy, directing, like what she said, you don't even have to ask for help and they think you need it. And, my daughter took her car in and the guy said, you get the tires rotated. And he looks at her and goes, now, do you know what that means?
Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm. She goes, I know it doesn't mean that they spin going down the road.
Pretty self-explanatory.
I said, that's what you should have said to him. But it is we're going to assume so much, and it reads as disrespectful, right? And so, dads, I feel like it's our jobs to model respect for our sons towards women. They're watching. We talk about modeling all the time, but I think this one could be even more important. That's why our big question of the week is, how do we teach our sons to respect women? First, we've got to define, what is respect? It's not patronizing. It's not being nice. It is honoring someone's worth.
Correct.
And part of that is getting to know them. And part of that, we'll talk about what those pieces are, but it is honoring worth. And that's the definition we're going after.
And teaching our sons to respect women is important because they're worthy. They're worthy of our respect, and our sons are going to, they're going to have sisters. They're going to date, women. They're going to become men. They're going to potentially become husbands. And so this has a lasting impact for the future. And so dads need to teach sons how to be a man that respects women.
As we're talking, it's hitting me how sad it is we're having to have this conversation a little bit. Like we're having, this is convincing, but I think it's just, we're not too many years removed from, hey, women are getting the right to vote. Oh, now women can get their own credit card. I think just some of that continues to leak down. And I've been working with married couples for a really long time, and there are partners, and sometimes we bring strengths and sometimes they bring strengths. Sometimes it's stereotypical and sometimes it's not. Nancy does all the finances at our house. But I think it's those things we would crazy not to lean into the intelligence and the things that they're way better at than us. And again, it pulls us in a more holistic direction, right?
And I think it's worth peeling the curtain back a little bit for listeners, for viewers on YouTube, to just say, a little bit of our process. This was not really on my radar, but we have a woman that works in our office. She just turned 27. She's trying to date, trying to find a good guy. And she's like, nobody really knows. None of these men I'm trying to date know how to treat women well. And I think that's an indictment on, how we haven't trained up sons well. It's not just the boys' fault, the son's fault. Boys have to be taught. They have to be nurtured by their dads. And if that hasn't happened for too long, you're going to get to a point where, one of our coworkers says, I wish you'd talk about this because I don't find any guys out there that are really knowing how to do this well. And that was kind of the, idea behind why we're even having this discussion today.
And I was so shocked, as we talk about the manosphere and all those different things, we got an episode on those. just how much still exists. I mean, I feel kind of bad that I didn't know, but it does.
So what does this mean? What does this mean for us? How do we need to take this into real life and kind of practice it? First of all, I think it's important that we actively listen. I think a lot of times as we're talking to women, I don't know if this is true of you. It's true of me. I'm looking to impress. And so I'm immediately looking for an answer that sounds great to them rather than actually listening to what they have to say and hearing what's going on with them. Don't interrupt. I've seen that quite a bit, even in the working world, that a woman starts talking and here's the thing. She might even say something that is, and this happens to me a lot, like women say things that like create a thought in me immediately. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole sharpening deal, that they inspire a thought. And I'm just so excited to jump in and say it that they get interrupted. And when you see yourself doing that, catch yourself and go, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead and finish. My fault. You just said something that really.
Whether you mean for it to be disrespectful or not, it could be feeling that I'm being disrespected, spoken over, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you interrupt, a woman, just recognize that. See it, like look for it and see it in other guys and go, okay, that's what we need to kind of stop doing. I think it's important to not make fun of them. Like what you were talking about with Teddy, they get made fun of all the time for everything. I think we need to recognize that and figure out. And sometimes it's just, hey, we're just teasing because it's guys tease each other, and it's like you're just trying to connect, and you just need to know that when you have somebody who gets made fun of all the time and you start doing it again, it's kind of hitting on something that's pretty sensitive.
And that's the one I'm going to talk to my son about, the don't tease so much, because I know when I was younger, and a lot of little boys do this, if you like a girl, you don't really know what to do, what to say. You just kind of resort to teasing. At least you're close enough to talk to her, right? You may not be saying the right things and you think you're kind of helping, make fun of a little girl that you like. It still hurts. And so I'm going to talk to my son about that because he's kind of entering that girls don't have cooties anymore stage of life,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, so there's that. And then finally we need to teach our sons to not pressure girls to do things that they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. Especially as they get into the dating kind of world. We can very much be thinking of ourselves and what we want. And, sometimes, we got to just talk people into what we want them to do.
You said something earlier, Ted, and I think that you're kind of circling this now. You said it's a shame that we even have to talk about this. But is it? Like, is this instinctive for boys? Like, do they know that women are worthy of respect, or do we really have to, intentionally teach them this? Because I don't necessarily know the answer. I'm genuinely curious.
I think we absolutely have to teach them. I mean, as we're doing all this.
It's not instinctive.
No, it's not instinctive. I don't think it's instinctive at all. I mean,
it should be.
It should.
Well, that's why I'm kind of thinking through.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it feels like it's a shame, because what we don't want to sound like is right now. I mean, just sensitive. We don't want to be condescending. We don't want to be like, hey, we're trying to convince each other. No, at all. And I can feel it, this tension inside. And we've talked about that a little bit. And my daughter is telling me that boys are running around camp in 2025, teasing. It's still, so absolutely we have to teach them. So let's dive into some action steps. I think we have to point out problematic phrases, right? Because like you pointed out the one about she's just valued for her beauty. And so there's like controlling things. I'm going to control you. There's the sexual language. Well, if you love me, you would. There's the dismissive language, which I think men can be guilty of, not just like sons. It is, you're so emotional. You're so emotional. That kind of thing, it's stop. And then guys, we can be very uncomfortable with emotions. I think that's why we try to fix everything, right? If they've got something going on, they got an emotion, I don't like this. Let's just fix this. And I think that's very problematic for marriages, but it's something we can't be dismissive and teach our kids to be dismissive.
Yeah, this is kind of a tricky one too for dads, a tightrope, because women are beautiful. Like God made beautiful women. Like that's the way it is. And like, you're not wrong, son, for recognizing that she is a pretty girl. Like that's okay. Like you can recognize that person is beautiful, but there are boundaries around your actions, your words, your thoughts. Like there's things that we need for that. And I have, experience where I haven't necessarily done this well. And I need to teach my son that when you hear objectifying things, not just, recognize it, but reject it. Our sons are going to notice that women have inherent beauty, but there is a very defined line for me that I do not want my son to cross. And I'm the one who has to help him set it and not tiptoe over it and kind of like hold his shirt back a little bit, pull him back over the line. Because I think boys' natural inclination is let's get as close to that line as we can and maybe tiptoe across it and see how far we can get over the line. I got to pull him back because it doesn't lead to anything good when we treat women that way.
So I think a problematic phrase is when guys tell women to smile. I think it's something I've seen it in the workplace. I've seen it in the streets. It's, it's kind of this, hey, smile for me. I need this. It's a very aggressive kind of controlling, where you're telling women that they're here to look pretty and they're here to look nice for you, that they're not allowed to be certain emotions. They're not allowed to be sad. They're not allowed to feel, a lot of complex things. They're just here to dress up the room and to look pretty. And so it's a very kind of degrading and controlling kind of a thing.
This one was a surprise to me. Like, and we just asked our producer, Haley, I was like, is that a thing? And she's like, yeah, I've been told that a lot. And I was like, whoa, that one.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I had no idea. And she's like, oh, what? Women can't be sad. They can't be mad. They just have to sit there and look pretty. And I was like, I wanted, Haley, we're so sorry. Like we're going, wow.
Well, that's the thing is I would say this, I didn't notice it until, it was told to me by, Haley and other women. So
I guess that's why we're doing these podcasts, to bring things to the light.
So another action step for you as dads, you're trying to train your sons on how to respect women, is when women are speaking, listen to them. I know you mentioned this earlier a little bit, BJ, like don't just be thinking instinctually like, all right, how am I going to fix this so I can get moving on? Like just take care of her problem and go. Like that's not what we're talking about. We're like listening when a woman says, hey, I really fill in the blank. Listen, digest, respect her wishes. They're not your problems to solve. Like women are co-equals and we need to sit with them in whatever is going on, their happiness, their sadness, their problems. Like respect women because what they're feeling is valid. It's just as valid as what you're feeling day to day. And you want to be respected. You want to be heard. Women also want to be respected and heard. So listen to women when they speak. The phrase that I heard growing up is no means no. There's never a bad time to revisit that. Like when a woman says no to something, it's a firm no. It's not a maybe, it's a no. And that's something that my kids need to know. My son is going to hear that from me as he gets older and older. And he's already heard it in stages, age appropriate stages. But when women speak, listen to them. Absolutely. And the reason why that's so important is because I came across a stat that we have referenced in previous episodes. Blew my mind. This 40% of kids, so 2 out of 5, think that it's normal to send nude photos. 40%. So no means no. Well, 2 out of 5 kids maybe don't agree with that. Another interesting statistic I came up with or that I found was 1 in 10 high school students who went on a date last year reported experiencing sexual dating violence. No means no. So when women speak, and it's not just in a sexual context, but for this particular point, this absolutely is, in a sexual discussion. No means no. Listen to women when they speak. This is not a suggestion. This is a rule that my son needs to put in his brain, download, and have in the front of his mind whenever he's on a date, when he's working with someone, when he's just spending time in class, whatever he's doing. Women need to be listened to and not just patronized.
Yeah, and the whole no means no thing, my daughter was like, look, no means no is definitely when it comes to sex.
Yeah.
She goes, it should apply to everything. Like she said, kids keep teasing, and even in high school. And she said they're bigger and it's intimidating, and will say, "Stop! I don't want to talk to you right now. No, get away." And they leverage their size and their intimidation and their teasing, and they just don't stop. And it's not just sex; it's all those things. I thought, I've never thought about it like that.
No, I'm guilty of that. I like the teasing thing. Like right. I am from Philadelphia, as sarcastic as anything. And I have teased girls. And again, it's a way that I'm like trying to connect and tease. And I've had girls that are like, okay, stop. And I'll just kind of keep going, kind of thinking, well, I just need to make them laugh again. Like that's, and they'll say no. And finally a girl said to me, she's like, "Hey, you're teasing a lot." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just having fun." She goes, "Yeah, you take it really far. You take it really far, too far." Particularly, I think when I was in my 20s, I kind of had, these things kind of said to me, and I'm like, boy, I need to.
Well, you finally listened. Like that's the thing is I've been guilty too of just not listening. I'm being dismissive potentially of women's opinions. And it's probably not malicious. It's just, I really felt strongly about my own opinion probably. And so I was dismissive, and that's the wrong posture. We need to listen to women because they can sharpen us for sure, and do.
So that goes right into action step number 3, which is we need to set the standard. I mean, we're the men that our sons will more than likely grow into. So with our words, with our actions, and I would say even I would go this far with our thoughts, the things that we think about women, start it there. Are you thinking respectful things of women? Are you thinking of them at a very high level? And even just kind of will show in our actions and our words, but even in our entertainment decisions. What are we watching? What are we taking in? Even just those little subtle things,
My son's 10. So this works in practice today because he's got 2 sisters. He's got a mom and he's got friends who are girls. But when I'm teaching him things, I'm thinking about the future daughter-in-law I've never met. I don't know who she is. I don't know where she lives. But I know she exists. If my son is going to get married one day, that girl needs to be respected. And so the way he's going to treat her 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever, he's learning those lessons from me today. So I need to get it right today because her future marriage depends on it. A little girl I've never met, her future marriage to my son depends on what I'm teaching him today. This matters, not just because he's got sisters and a mom. Obviously, they are present in his life now, but there's someone he doesn't even know yet who needs to know that he was trained well.
Absolutely. And the number one way that we teach our sons how to respect women is by the way we respect their mother. And I would even go so far as saying, even if you're divorced, are you still respecting this woman because it's his mother? Mm-hmm. Because I think when there's tension, especially whether that's tension within a marriage or in a divorce, it is the time we can be the most disrespectful ever. She doesn't agree with me, I power up, I get loud. And so we're modeling that, like, how do you handle things when you don't agree? So that's kind of sitting on our shoulders. Mm-hmm. Another action step is we've got to teach our kids to follow the standard and not the crowd, and say to boys, "Hey, son, you don't have to agree with that. You don't have to chime in on that. And at times you're going to need to defend that." And that's not going to be easy, and it is countercultural, but that's an important thing to do. But just as we land the plane here, my daughter, as she's talking and all the things about being respected, it was like, I want to be known. I want to be respected for building fires and that I'm good with crafts. Like I want that. I want when no means no. And so I was hearing kind of this defensive posture, which was so understandable. And I was like, oh, this is good. But then she says something that took me off guard a little bit. She says, I have a guy friend, and every time we go to get in the car, he opens the door for me. And it's not because he doesn't think that I can open the door, but that's one of the ways that he shows me that he loves me and he cares about me. And this was a friend, and she goes, he treats me like a treasure. And I think that's what we're talking about, is we are treating our goals to teach our kids, our sons, to treat women like the treasures that they are.
So I have a friend who constantly posts stuff on Facebook about just kind of the world could be better if ... And if we think about men respecting women, how the world would change and how the world could be different and how the world could be better. And a lot of times I think as men, we don't think about that. We don't think about all the trials and all the challenges that women face because of men's disrespect. And so you think about the workplace and sexism and feeling disrespected at work and not having the same pay as men and not receiving the same kind of accolade and attention for not their looks, but for their intelligence and what they bring to the table. All of those things would change. They would feel elevated in those positions. They might receive positions of leadership that are deserved. But I think there's this, and relationships, marriages, domestic violence would probably, in terms of a marriage would probably go down to almost ceasing to exist. But there's this aspect that I don't think men understand of where women walk into the world and the threat that they feel. Like if men could just think about the most threatening situation they've ever been in. Like I grew up in and around cities. When I go down to the city, my head is on a swivel. Like I notice everything. I see everything. I see every threat. I see the people walking down the street and what they could possibly do. But that's only when I go into those situations. Women feel that all the time. When they walk into an elevator and there's a guy and it's just them and another guy in an elevator. When they're in a parking lot, when they're anywhere on the street, they see all the threats that I would see, but even more so. They have to walk different places in numbers. All these things that we don't possibly think about. And if men respected women the way that they should, then all of those worries, concerns, fears, all of those go away. And that's the world we need to help kind of create for women instead of the one that we have.
And some of the guys listening right now are thinking, they're listening to this going, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I feel like I respect my wife. I feel like I'm respecting my daughters. I feel like I'm teaching them. Some of you are thinking, I didn't know, just like me in the smile thing, like you've learned a few things, but there's so much hope when we turn this around. When we do this, if you are like, wow, I do some of these things to my wife or even my daughters, it'll be a transition. They'll be like, wait, who are you? Like, how are you doing this? But just to have these conversations, which leads us to the pro move of the day, is challenge your sons to talk to a girl and then ask her, does she feel respected to boys? And then you just listen. You don't fix what she's saying. You don't argue. You just go, thanks for letting me know. But just asking that question, just like we've been surprised. My wife said to me the same thing. Like she goes, oh, no, I never look at a man when I'm in a store. And Teddy's like, no, I don't either. Like she goes, oh, no, you learn your whole life not to do that. And so part of respect is protection. And we want to be seen as safe especially in our own homes and especially as dads. This is good. This is good stuff. And thank you for listening. And if this podcast or any of the podcasts have been helpful, go ahead and send it to a friend. It'll be helpful for them. And then other people can find our podcast when you do that. But most of all, thank you for listening. We know that you and your kids will be glad that you did.
Thanks again for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. Behind every episode is our amazing team. Producer, Haley Mawat, audio and video editor, Buck Buchanan, and production coordinator, Corey Walliff. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. So remember, if you have more questions than answers, then you're probably in the right place. See you next time.